My wife's affair ended our 34-year marriage, but that wasn't what ended my family. 3 days after Elaine admitted she was seeing another man, an old tablet lit up on my kitchen counter. A message from my daughter appeared on the screen. "Dad still thinks the anniversary trip is happening. Just keep everything normal until October." I opened the conversation. My wife was in it. So were both of our adult children. For 6 months, they had shared hotel dates, invented explanations, deleted photographs, and discussed how to keep me calm while I paid for one final family vacation. The group chat was called Mom's Exit Plan. I read every message. Then I canceled the trip. 6 months later, my wife asked me to come home, but by then, the affair was no longer the reason I refused. My name's Thomas Reed. I'm 63 years old, and until last year, I believed I understood the difference between a bad marriage and a dishonest one. A bad marriage can still contain truthful people. Two people can become distant, lonely, disappointed, or incompatible without turning every shared memory into evidence against each other. Dishonesty is different. It makes you question not only the future, but the past. Elaine and I had been married for 34 years. I met when I was 27 and she was 24. I was a junior civil engineer who owned 2 shirts suitable for dates. She worked in the membership office of an art museum and laughed at my habit of checking whether restaurant tables were level. We married 18 months later. Our daughter, Rachel, was born the following year. Our son, Adam, arrived 3 years after that. We were not a perfect family, but for most of those years, I believed we were a solid one. I worked too much when the children were young. Elaine carried more of the daily parenting that I understood at the time. We argued about money, discipline, holidays, and my inability to throw away electrical cables whose purpose I could no longer identify. But we also survived job losses, my father's illness, Elaine's surgery, 2 difficult teenage years, and the ordinary disappointments that collect inside a long marriage. When I retired, we began planning our 35th anniversary. I rented a large house on the coast of Maine for 2 weeks in October. Rachel and her husband would join us for the first week. Adam and his girlfriend planned to come for several days. Elaine had always wanted the entire family together near the ocean in autumn. The house, flights, rental cars, and deposits came to nearly $14,000. It was more than I usually spent on travel, but I told myself the memories would be worth it. Elaine kissed my cheek when I showed her the reservation. "This will be good for us," she said. I didn't understand why she chose those exact words until much later. The first clear sign appeared 5 months before the trip. Elaine began volunteering twice a week at the museum where she had once worked. She said they needed help preparing a donor exhibition. I was pleased for her. Retirement had not suited her as easily as it suited me. I had projects, books, and enough repairs to occupy several lifetimes. Elaine needed people around her. The museum gave her a reason to dress carefully and leave the house with somewhere specific to be. Then the 2 evenings became 3. Her phone began traveling from room to room with her. She changed the password after using the same 4 digits for more than a decade. When I asked why, she said the museum's email system required better security. I accepted that explanation. I had spent my career working with systems. I understood annoying password rules. One Thursday, she said the volunteer committee was having dinner after a meeting. At 10:30, Rachel called to ask whether her mother had arrived safely home. "Why would she be coming from your house?" I asked. Rachel paused for half a second. "I thought she had stopped by earlier. I thought she might have mentioned it." Elaine returned 20 minutes later and said the restaurant had been crowded. When I told her Rachel had called, her expression barely changed. "I dropped off a sweater. I forgot to tell you." A week later, Adam mentioned helping his mother move several boxes at the museum on Saturday. Elaine had told me she was spending Saturday with Rachel. When I asked Adam about it, he corrected himself immediately. "That was Friday. I'm mixing the days." Both explanations were possible. That is the difficulty with people you trust.
You do not examine every inconsistency as evidence. You help the story make sense. The affair finally revealed itself through a hotel receipt. Elaine and I shared a loyalty account because I handled most travel bookings throughout our marriage. An email thanked her for staying at a hotel 40 miles away on a night she said she had attended a museum dinner. The reservation listed 2 guests. I did not confront her immediately. I checked the date twice. I looked at our calendar. That evening, Rachel had called to tell me her mother would be late because they were shopping together. I waited until the following morning. Elaine was standing at the kitchen counter slicing an apple when I placed the printed receipt beside her. She looked at it for several seconds, then she sat down. His name was Peter Lawson. He served on the museum's fundraising board. He was 61, divorced, and had known Elaine for a year. She said the relationship had become physical 6 weeks ago. She said she had been lonely for years. She said my retirement had made her realize how little we had left to discuss when work no longer filled my days. Some of what she said was painful, because some of it was true. I had become comfortable rather than attentive. I assumed our marriage could survive on history. I had not asked enough questions about who Elaine was becoming. But neglect and deception are not equal acts. My failures did not sign her name into a hotel. "Does Peter know you're married?" I asked. "Yes." "Do the children know?" Her answer came too slowly. "They know we've been having problems." "Do they know about him?" She looked down. "Rachel knows." I stood without meaning to. "How long?" "A few weeks." "And Adam?" "I don't know what Rachel told him." That was the first direct lie I recognized as a lie. Elaine moved into the guest room. We agreed not to make decisions for several days. I canceled dinner plans and told the children I needed space. Rachel sent a message saying she loved me. Adam wrote that he was available if I wanted to talk. Neither mentioned Peter. 3 days later, I was in the kitchen reviewing the cancellation terms for the anniversary house. I had not yet decided what to do with the trip. Part of me still imagined a smaller version without Elaine, perhaps with the children. The old family tablet was charging near the fruit bowl. We used it mostly for recipes and video calls. Years earlier, Elaine had signed into her messaging account so she could receive photographs from Rachel. No one had used the feature recently, but the account remained connected. The screen lit up. Rachel's name appeared above a preview message. "Dad still thinks the anniversary trip is happening. Just keep everything normal until October." I opened the conversation. The group was called Mom's Exit Plan. Elaine, Rachel, and Adam were all members. The conversation began 6 months ago, not 6 weeks. The first messages were from Elaine. She told the children she had feelings for Peter and believed our marriage had been over emotionally for years. Rachel responded with sympathy. Adam told her to speak to me before doing anything. For several weeks, the children tried to persuade her to end the relationship or tell me the truth. That mattered. I want to be fair about it, even now. They had not celebrated the affair from the beginning. They had been placed in a position they should never have occupied. But gradually, their resistance became participation. Elaine said she needed time. She said a sudden separation might damage my health. I had experienced an irregular heartbeat the previous winter. Nothing dangerous, but she used it as proof that honesty required careful timing. Rachel began helping with explanations. When Elaine met Peter after the museum, Rachel called me to tell me her mother had been at her house. Adam confirmed 2 false stories after Elaine told him that revealing the truth would destroy the family before she had prepared financially. One message included a photograph of Elaine and Peter sitting together at an outdoor restaurant. Rachel wrote, "Delete this before Dad sees the shared album." Another conversation concerned the anniversary trip. Adam asked if accepting it was wrong. Elaine replied, "Let him have one last happy memory. He doesn't need to know it's not real." Rachel wrote that canceling would make me suspicious. Adam responded, "I hate this," but he did not tell me. They discussed how Elaine would announce the separation after we returned. They discussed whether I should be left alone during the first week. They discussed which child would call me each evening. They discussed my grief as if it were an engineering problem that could be managed with a schedule. I read the conversation twice. I did not throw the tablet. I did not call anyone. I downloaded the messages and sent copies to a private email account. Then I opened the reservation page for Maine. The house was still refundable with a cancellation fee. The airline tickets could be converted into credits. I canceled everything. 12 minutes later, Rachel called. Did something happen with the trip? I looked at the tablet. A new message had appeared in Mom's exit plan. Rachel had written, "The reservation app just emailed me. He canceled." "The trip is over," I said. "Why?" "Come to dinner tomorrow. Bring Adam and your mother." She became quiet. "Dad, did you see something?"
That question told me she already knew the answer. They arrived the next evening at 6. Elaine sat at the far end of the table. Rachel kept her handbag on her lap. Adam looked as if he had not slept. I placed the tablet in the center. No printed screenshots, no dramatic folders. Just the device they had forgotten existed. "I read the chat," I said. Elaine closed her eyes. Rachel started speaking immediately. "Dad, you need to understand context." "I have 6 months of context. Mom told us the marriage was already over. Did I know that?" "No. Then it wasn't over. It was being ended without my participation." Adam looked at the floor. Elaine said my name softly. "Thomas, the children were trying to protect you." "From what?" "From being hurt before there was a plan. The plan was to let me pay for a vacation, pose for photographs, and come home to a separation. I wanted us to have one final good experience. Good for whom?" She had no answer. Rachel leaned forward. "Mom was scared. She thought you would collapse. So you helped her create 6 months of evidence that my entire family considered me too weak for the truth. That's not what we thought." I opened the conversation and read one line aloud. "Adam can call Dad every evening after she leaves. Routine will help him adjust." Adam flinched. "I wrote that," Elaine said. "He didn't. He stayed in the group." Adam finally looked at me. "I should have told you." Rachel turned toward him. "We agreed." "No," he said. "You and Mom agreed. I stopped arguing." I asked Elaine when the affair had actually begun. 6 months ago. "Not 6 weeks?" "No." "How many times did you use the children as an alibi?" She looked toward Rachel. "Don't," I said. "They have their own responsibility. I'm asking about yours." 4 or 5. Rachel interrupted. "Dad, Mom was going to tell you." "After Maine." "Yes, after I paid? This isn't about money. Then why didn't any of you suggest canceling?" Silence answered for them. I told Elaine I would be meeting with an attorney. I told the children I loved them but did not want contact for several weeks. Rachel began crying. Adam nodded once. Elaine asked where she was supposed to go. "Peter seems involved in the plan," I said. "Ask him." I regretted that sentence almost immediately, not because it was untrue, but because it sounded like revenge, and revenge was not what I wanted. I wanted distance from people who had converted my trust into a logistical inconvenience. Elaine stayed with her sister. Peter did not invite her to live with him. Their relationship continued for another 2 months and then ended. According to Elaine, he had been interested in a relationship that existed outside ordinary life. Once the secrecy disappeared and real decisions became necessary, he no longer wanted the same future she did. I did not celebrate. His rejection did not restore our marriage or make me feel chosen. It simply removed one of Elaine's explanations for why everything had been worth it. Adam contacted me after 3 weeks. He asked whether we could meet at a park near my house. He arrived early and carried no prepared speech. "I knew for 5 months," he said. "I argued with Mom twice. Then I decided it wasn't my marriage and used that as an excuse to do nothing." "You did more than nothing. I lied about the museum boxes. I also told you Mom was helping me choose furniture one Saturday when she was with Peter." He looked directly at me. "I'm sorry. I was afraid that if I told you, Mom would never forgive me, so I made you the person who didn't get a choice."
It was not a perfect apology, but it contained no demand for immediate forgiveness. We began speaking again slowly. Coffee once a week, short phone calls. I did not share personal information I wasn't ready to have repeated. Trust returned in teaspoons, not buckets. Rachel was different. She believed I was punishing her for supporting her mother. Every conversation became an argument about Elaine's loneliness, my emotional absence, and the impossible position Rachel had been placed in. I agreed the position had been unfair. I did not agree that unfairness removed her responsibility. You could have refused to lie, I told her. Then Mom would have been alone. Instead, I was. We stopped speaking for nearly 3 months. The divorce proceeded without spectacle. Elaine and I divided accounts, discussed the house, and attended mediation. She asked twice whether counseling could save the marriage. I agreed to one session, not to reconcile, but to understand whether anything honest remained between us. During that session, Elaine said she regretted the affair. I asked whether she regretted Peter or regretted the consequences. She thought for a long time. Both, she said. It was probably the most honest answer she could give. 6 months after I found the group chat, Elaine asked to meet at the house. Legally, it still belonged to both of us, though she had not lived there since the confrontation. She sat at the same kitchen table where our children had eaten breakfast before school. "Peter and I are finished," she said. "I know. She never planned to build a life with him the way I built one with you. You planned to leave me for him. I thought I did." She folded her hands. "I want to come home." For a moment, I saw not the woman from the messages, but the person I'd known for most of my adult life, the woman who sat beside my father in the hospital, the mother of my children, the person who drove through a snowstorm because Rachel had forgotten a stuffed rabbit at a hotel. 34 years do not disappear when trust does. That is what makes leaving difficult. Love can remain after the relationship that contained it becomes unsafe. "I may forgive the affair one day," I said, "but reconciliation would require me to trust the person who made our children part of the deception. I was trying to make the separation less painful. You made it collaborative." Her eyes filled with tears. "Is there nothing I can do?" "Take responsibility without using your unhappiness as permission. Repair what you did to the children. Let the divorce finish honestly." She nodded. "And us? We are finishing too." Elaine did not come home. 2 weeks later, Rachel sent me a letter. It was 6 pages long and handwritten. She did not begin with her mother. She began with the first lie she had told me. She described every time she had covered for Elaine and every explanation she had used to justify it. Near the end, she wrote, "I said I was protecting Mom because admitting I betrayed you would have required me to see myself differently." That was the sentence that changed something. We met for lunch. Rachel apologized without asking whether I understood her position. I told her forgiveness would not return us to the relationship we had before. She said she knew. We are still rebuilding. I sold my portion of the anniversary travel credits and used the remaining value for a smaller trip. I traveled alone to Maine for 5 days in October. Not to the large house I had rented for the family. I stayed in a simple room above a bookstore in a coastal town. On the second morning, I walked beside the water when cold rain moved across the harbor. I had imagined the trip would prove I was independent or healed. It did neither. I missed my family. I was angry. I felt relieved. All 3 emotions existed together. That is the part betrayal stories often leave out. The betrayed person does not walk into a perfect new life while everyone else collapses behind them. Most of the time, you carry pieces of the old life with you. You simply become more careful about what you rebuild. Elaine and I are divorced now. We communicate politely about practical matters. Adam visits most Sundays. Rachel and I speak every few days, though neither of us pretends the group chat never existed. She and Adam are also working through their anger towards their mother. Elaine's affair ended our marriage, but the affair involved 2 people. The group chat required 4. They told themselves they were protecting me from pain. What they protected was a plan that depended on my trust, my silence, and my money. I may forgive them all eventually. In some ways, I already have. But forgiveness is not the same as restoring access. It does not mean pretending I never read what they wrote when they believed I wasn't in the room. If you discovered your spouse was cheating and your adult children had helped hide it, which betrayal would be harder to forgive? Would you try to rebuild the marriage, or would the group chat make reconciliation impossible? Tell me what you would have done in Thomas's place. And if you believe protecting someone should never require deceiving someone else, subscribe to Karma's Revenge Stories. Here, the truth may arrive late, but it still changes everything.